40 years earlier, their fathers had stood at this same edge and turned back. 12 men had gone into the land, and 10 came home afraid, and a whole nation believed them instead of God. So they wandered, and one by one that generation was laid to rest beneath the sand, exactly as God had said. These are their children. They grew up on bread that fell from heaven. They were led by fire. They buried their parents in the desert and learned from every grave what unbelief costs. Now Moses was dead too, and God spoke to a man named Joshua, one of only 2 who had believed the first time. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. This is the story of the generation that went in. In front of them stood Jericho, the oldest city in the world, its gates barred, its walls thick enough to build houses on. Before Joshua marched a single soldier, he sent 2 spies across the river. They slipped in at dusk to the one house where strangers could disappear, the home of a woman named Rahab, built into the city wall itself. But the king had eyes everywhere. Soldiers pounded on her door that night. She had already hidden them on her roof under the stalks of flax drying in the sun. And she looked the king's men in the eye and lied to save 2 enemies of her own city. When they were gone, she told the spies why. We heard how your God dried up the sea. Every heart in this city has melted. Your God is God. In heaven above and on the earth below. Hang a scarlet cord in your window, they told her. Every soul under this roof will live. Between the nation and the land lay the Jordan, and it was flood season, the water over its banks, fast and deep and brown with the melt of the mountains. No bridge, no boats. Their parents had watched a sea open. This generation had only heard the story. Now it was their turn to find out if it was true. The priests would go first, carrying the Ark of the Covenant. They would walk down to the water's edge, and they would not stop. Imagine it. The river roaring in front of you, a nation watching behind you, and the command is, keep walking. The moment the soles of their feet touched the water, the river stopped. Upstream it rose in a standing heap, piling higher and higher against nothing at all. Downstream, the riverbed simply emptied, and a whole nation walked across on dry ground. Then Joshua stacked 12 stones on the far bank, so that one day the children would ask what they meant. Then God gave Joshua a battle plan unlike any other. No siege, no ladders, no battering ram. March around the city, once a day for 6 days. Say nothing, not a word. Let only the priest's trumpets sound. Imagine hearing that. We are going to take the greatest fortress in Canaan by walking around it in silence. But they obeyed. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. On the walls, the people of Jericho watched this silent army circle and leave, circle and leave, and they must have started to laugh. Then came the 7th day. This time they marched around 7 times, the trumpets crying out, the tension winding tighter with every lap. And on the 7th circuit, the priests blew one long blast, and Joshua turned and shouted, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." 1,000,000 voices roared as one, and the walls did not crack, they did not crumble, they fell flat. And in the middle of the wreckage, one small section stood untouched, a single house with a scarlet cord still hanging in the window. Nothing could stop them now. The next town was Ai, small, weak, barely worth the march. "Send 2,000 or 3,000 men," the spies said. "Ai is nothing." And Ai came out and crushed them. The soldiers who had watched Jericho fall flat were running from a nothing little town. 36 never came home. Joshua tore his clothes and fell on his face until evening. Why? And God answered with terrible words, "Get up. Israel has sinned. Someone has taken what was devoted to me and hidden it among his own things. One man, At Jericho, everything had belonged to God, and a soldier named Achan had seen a beautiful robe, silver, a wedge of gold, and he wanted it. So he took it and buried it in the floor of his tent. He thought a thing done in secret stayed secret, but what one man hid in the dark cost everyone the light. Word spread that Israel could not be stopped, and 5 kings united to destroy the one city that had made peace with them, Gibeon. Gibeon sent a desperate message. "Come quickly. Don't abandon us." Joshua could have stayed home. Gibeon wasn't even Israel, but he had given his word. So he marched all night, uphill, in the dark, and fell on those 5 armies at dawn like a storm out of nowhere. They broke and ran, and as they fled, God hurled hailstones out of heaven, and more died by his hand than by any sword. But the day was running out. Once night fell, they would scatter into the hills and come again. Joshua needed more daylight than the day had to give. So in front of his whole army, he lifted his eyes and commanded the sun. "Sun, stand still over Gibeon." And it stopped in the middle of the sky, and it did not go down for about a whole day. City by city, the land was taken and divided among the tribes. Every family given ground their parents had died without ever standing on. And when it was finished, Scripture records it plainly. Not one word failed of all the good promises the Lord had made. Everyone came to pass. Their fathers had stood at the same edge and turned back. These children crossed a flooded river, walked around a fortress in silence, buried their own failure in a valley, and watched the sun wait for them. Not because they were braver, because the same God who kept the promise through 40 years of wandering was still keeping it. The wilderness buried a generation. It could not bury the promise. And this was the generation that went in.